and I believe in some states, you cannot ask previous compensation. This is an effort to try to remove sex discrimination, where there are higher salaries for men and lower salaries for women. And most of the time, people ask that and they figure, well, we'll just need to give that person 10 or 15% more in our job. So just know about it. In Colorado, you have to post the compensation in the job description. California, which is when you go to law school, you read a lot of boring case history, and then you get one from California, and it's like finding a comic strip in the middle of the case book, because this is just how badly you could screw it up. But you can't ask about criminal history some places, even if you're going to be childcare. You could not ask about it during the interview process. You could do it in the screening for an employment. So the state law is set up so that you can take somebody all the way through the hiring process, make them an offer, and then in the background check, find out that they're a child molester and not give them the job. So why that law is on the books, I don't know. But other things to come into consideration, things like family leave, how much vacation. Non-competes in California are of no value. What are the unemployment status? And then occasionally there are some states that say, you got employees here, so we're going to start taxing you for your organization for revenue generated in our state. Again, don't have answers for these. I'm just saying these are potential pitfalls and want you to know about them. One potential source of information is Society for Human Resource Management, or SHRM. They have a lot of this stuff on their website. So the process that I'm going to go through and make some suggestions on starts with job descriptions, how you post them, how you conduct interviews, and how you do some onboarding. All part of a continuum of bringing on a new employee. In job descriptions, I often see just the job description. Why do I want to? Why would a candidate want to work at your company? What are your benefits? What's the culture like? What's the outlook for the company and the outlook for this position? Give them as much information as possible as to why your company stands out versus other people posting jobs. And then make sure that job description and what you're saying there matches up with what you have on your website and what you have on your LinkedIn pages, because that's where they're going to check and start doing due diligence. I tell everybody that's going to go work at a company, hey, run a LinkedIn search. Do you know anybody that works there? Give them a call. I tell people never apply anywhere. Try to get networked in. Talk to somebody who works there or used to work there, and try to find out the answers to those questions. What's it like working there? I just had, I've got a friend who got a job and he was told, oh yeah, this is 100% remote and some travel. But what it turns out, it's 100% remote from all of our facilities in the country, to which you'll be traveling 90%. Now that happens to be a fit for him, but find this stuff out before you start as a candidate, and make sure candidates know about this kind of stuff right up front. If you have hey, we're a startup and we work about 12 hours a day and half a day Saturday, let them know right in the beginning. Have people screen themselves out if they're not a fit with your job environment. And then perhaps most important, what are they going to be doing when they get there? Most job descriptions I see are really bland. We're looking for out of the box thinkers, self-starters, I counsel everybody to put some numbers on it. What are the metrics for this person? You're coming in, you're going to be doing telemarketing sales. I know of a recruiting firm where the standard is you'll be making 15 contacts a day. They're going to get this is for sourcing candidates. So we're going to give you a list of 150 potential candidates. You're going to reach out and speak to 15 of those a day. At the end of day one, we're at 14, okay, we'll give you a pass today. If you're at 14 tomorrow, you're not coming back the next day. But as much as you can, have standards, have them what they're going to be doing. I put 30, 60, 90. One of the greatest job descriptions I ever saw was posted by a company that had, here's what you're going to be doing in the first 30 days, 30 to 60, 60 to 90. Here's where we expect you to be after that. So somebody could say, oh, okay, I can do that, or I can't do that. As I say, the metrics are important. Put some of them in there so that they have an expectation of, well, if I'm going to have to make this many calls a day, or I'm going to be stuck to or required to make this much revenue, you can put those things in there. And then people put, as far as necessary experience, a lot of times it's not really necessary, and they bend it. So they say, well, it must have a college degree. But then they'll hire somebody without one. So if they're mandatory, make them mandatory, because as a senior level, you may think it's not mandatory, but the people reading the resumes in the first stage may be eliminating resumes that would be a great fit because they don't meet some of the artificial standards that are put in the job description. So it requires some thought, and most of this requires work on, just don't grab the job description from the person that you hired 5 years ago that left. What's really important for that job now? And then where do you post it? I say number one is on the company website. And as part of that, what are you doing with your employees? They should be your best salespeople on bringing new people into the company. Most Fortune 500 companies have an employee referral program where if you recommend somebody, they come into the company and they stay 90 days, that person gets a bonus. So, save yourself a lot of trouble. Pitch your jobs to your current employees to say, who knows somebody that's just like you that we could bring on board? And maybe, if it's a smaller company, maybe give them, $100 gift card or something. If you're looking for hourly employees, Career Builder, Monster are kind of your targets. There's some local job boards too. This is not an all-inclusive list. For management, LinkedIn, ZipRecruiter, you see these ads that say ZipRecruiter is great. You could put which you can, and I use them. You can put a screener. How many years of experience do you have doing this? How many people have you managed? And people will go right around that and see what the answer is and send you a resume that doesn't fit at all. Then there's specialty job boards. If you're looking for people with clearances, there's clearance jobs. Angel.co is kind of good for startups. And the Society for Human Resource Management has a job board for HR professionals. Indeed and Glassdoor are both aggregators. So if you post on one of the top 3 bullets, they will likely get sucked up to Indeed and potentially Glassdoor. Glassdoor is also a good place to take a look because people who work at your company and people who interview at your company can post their reflections on the process. And companies can't take those down. Companies can respond to those, but not take those down. So it's a good way to see how you are doing with your employees and your candidates, and how your competitors are doing too. The interview process is probably the most horribly abused part of this whole mess. I've seen companies that take 6 weeks to hire somebody. Phone screening week 1, week 2 phone screen with HR, week 2 phone screen with the hiring manager, week 3 second round with hiring manager, or kind of a 360 where they're talking to people that would be peers, that would be other folks they'd have to work with at the company. Final 2 come back week 4 to go, and then the week 5, the interview with the VP, kind of the dog and pony show, just to get the blessing on the candidate. I've had clients that did that kind of process that lost candidates at week 2 or 3 because they got hired by somebody else. I also had a client that did it all in one day. They scheduled the hiring manager. They scheduled a meeting with three peers in a whiteboarding session on how would you go after this problem. They had another session with three more peers, and they had a call with an interview with the VP, and they made an offer the next day or not. So they never lost anybody to another company because of a slow interview process. And then also consider, from your offer, do you do a background check and a start date? Because that could add another week or two. So my advice there would be to compress that time frame as much as possible. If you've got a candidate you're not sure about, do all the scheduling with everybody, and if they bomb the first interview, then you just cancel out the rest of them and say, look, and you set the expectation with the candidate. You're going to be meeting with so and so. Depending on whose travel schedules and who's available, you may meet with other people that day. And if they don't do well in the first couple interviews, then just cancel the rest of them. But if they do, you're going to have a good candidate all along the way. You have the best chance of getting that candidate because of your compressed time frame to do the interview. And then I would make sure this is documented. When you first talk to somebody, I tell candidates, hey, ask them how long the interview process is going to be. Because as a candidate, you want to project manage this. I'm talking to 5 companies. These guys are going to take 6 weeks. These guys are going to take 2 weeks. Now I can go back to the first company and say, look, I'm going to have an offer in 2 weeks. Can we compress this time frame? Or else I'm going to, if it's a good offer, I'm going to have to take it. And it's also important, I think, or it's a reflection on the company if you have a relatively well-structured interview process. You look like you know what you're doing. If it's, well, I don't know, you may talk to this guy, you may talk to that guy. Well, your website says, hey, we're a high-tech company. We're all buttoned up. We know what we're doing. And then your interview process is not a mirror of that. And then I've heard, depending on what your HR and company posture is, I've interviewed at a company where I didn't get the job until I heard from a friend at the company that they introduced a new hire. So it's, if somebody is excluded from the interview process, let them know so they can move on. And then once you've gotten this new hire, hey, they're coming in pretty enthusiastic. Make sure they stay that way. As you're onboarding, again, reflective of the company values that you espoused in the interview process and on your website and in the job description. Do they really feel welcome? Is there any peer group that they can be introduced to? I know maybe these are small companies and there's not a lot of it, but how you welcome somebody into a company is very important. Geez, you just went through this whole process. You don't want them to stay a couple of weeks and say, no, this isn't for me. So keep them jacked up. If you had 30, 60, 90 plans in their interview process, if you talked in your job description, if you talked about them in the interview process, which is a good way to measure a candidate, is that followed through on their introduction and onboarding. And I'll mention there's a great book, at least I thought it was pretty good, called The E-Myth Revisited, which basically, in a nutshell, says, take your company and make it a franchise. Not to say you're going to franchise anything, but a franchise has everything pretty well buttoned up. This is what we do. These are the jobs. These are the job descriptions. This is how you progress from entry-level job to mid-level job to senior management. And once your company is in that kind of framework, then you've got good job descriptions. Then you've got a progression for somebody who's coming in and saying, this is how you get from being an assistant to a manager to a senior manager to a director in our company. The tighter you can have that documented, the better. That's what I've got, and happy to take any questions. With the group, I think you could just come off mute and ask away.
Lisa, you had some.
Did I? I said, are you allowed to ask previous compensation in New Jersey?
I think so, but I haven't been recruiting for 4 years, and it was New states were popping up where you couldn't. Probably the NJ.gov would have some of their employment laws on there.
And when you said Colorado insisted that you post the salary and the job description, I think that's a good thing. I think that's
Absolutely.
such a point of contention when people are applying for positions,
Yes.
especially in higher level positions, and whether or not it's even a waste of time to start the process to some
Absolutely.
extent.
No, I agree. That would be one of the first questions I asked of somebody is, where are you looking to be on compensation? Which is not how much were you making at your last job? It's where are you looking to be in compensation? And then you could say, oh, this job is not going to be anywhere near there. So end of discussion.
Right.
Yeah. So some people, some larger companies don't want to post it because their competitors will see what they're paying. And then they say, oh, we can go poach people. If they're only paying 80 and we're paying 100, we can go
I see.
poach those people from that company to bring them over
Sometimes
here.
I'm not strategic enough for my own good.
Well, that's also why you'll find that a lot of companies have, these job titles are, what the hell does that do? Well, that makes it harder. This superfluous job title makes it harder for our competitors to know who to poach, because I don't just say sales rep 1 or customer service 1. It's they're
Strategist,
specifically
and all kinds
ambiguous.
of funky things.
Yeah. But yeah, I agree completely on the compensation. The problem is, when it's posted somewhere, you will get people go, I'd like to make 100K. I would post, a VP of strategy for, Fortune 100 company. I'm perfect for your job. I'm managing McDonald's right now. And that's also the problem with posting jobs. There's just the people that are just, click, 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 click up. It's so easy. You just hit apply. I've got 50 jobs that are a match, apply. My resume goes out to those 50 jobs. So the poor person on the other end who has to read all this crap. That's why I'd say, hey, go to my employees and say, hey, we've got an opening at the loading dock. Who knows who's got a brother, cousin, whatever that can come fill that job. And then you got 2 people on the hook, because you got the employee that referred their friend or relative, and then the relative coming in, and obviously that's one where the employee can say, hey, here's what we do, here's what it's like, here's why I like working there, and so you've got a salesperson there for the open job.
Right. That's why family businesses are it's a successful venture for the most part.
Yeah, well, also 90% of murders are committed by family members. So,
oh my,
that sword goes both ways too.
Bill, I think you have.
Yeah, I worked for my dad's business for a while. I get that.
Yeah. So first, a comment and a response, and just a correction. So in New Jersey in 2018, banned you from allowing to ask for salaries. And took it so far that you can't ask a range. You cannot ask, what do you think you need to make? You cannot discuss salaries in an interview or on an application in the state of New Jersey. Yeah, it is very restrictive, and to me has somewhat become a joke when I interview people, because I don't know if I'm overpaying people or underpaying people, and I realize it when they don't take the job. I'm probably underpaying them. But it's one of the things that I believe as a business owner has made it extremely difficult when you're interviewing, because I do put ranges in my advertisements.
Yeah.
And hey, you know what? And you have to sit there, and even so, I actually tried to be sneaky once, and I got called out on it by someone who applied for a job during COVID, because it was so virtual and stuff, that I had they have on my application, it says list your past 3 jobs. Okay. And I have there where it says salary, and I didn't remove it. And somebody responded and actually wrote on the application, can't ask, can't ask, can't ask. So they were somewhat educated as to what was going on. And so I interviewed the person because I was interested to meet the person and see their personality, is really what it came out to. I never made them an offer because the personality was exactly what I thought I was going to get. But it is difficult, especially in a day and age now where it is very tough to find employees. So my question, Scott, was going to be, we get a resume, we get an application. In New Jersey, you can do background check as long as the applicant has approved that you can do it.
Right.
But actually the other thing too is you cannot, I always butcher this. You can't ask for their social security number. You can ask for their driver's license number, but only after some kind of, there's a requirement there because their age is in their social security, in their driver's license number in the state of New Jersey. The crazy thing. But so my question to you is, how best in that process, in the interview, can you ask, or what can you say? What's a good technique to get an idea if the person is in that employment salary range?
Well, I think you could start with the job description, which you say, the compensation will be
right
within this range. And then you could ask them up front, were you good with everything in the job description?
So, I mean, not to ask legal advice,
Yeah.
But I mean, can I say you have the job description had a range of 50,000 to 75,000, the job description, all that stuff. Does all that work for you?
Yeah, I think, so it's my understanding of the legislation is it's trying to get away from, here's what you were making, let me give you a 10% bump and bring you over, to what are your expectations? So I don't think that's asking your current salary.
Okay.
As I say, did the salary range stated in the job description meet your expectations? And I'm going to go take a look and see what I can come up with in the NJ, and maybe talk to some recruiters that I know in New Jersey.
Yeah, because the other thing too is you don't know. I mean, I could be making $35,000. You're offering 50 to 75. Yeah, that salary works for me. I'm in. Sign me up.
Well, that's why you need, I think, here's the kind of experience we're looking for, these kind of metrics. So if they don't have those listed, which most people have horrible resumes, they have job descriptions. This is what I did, but they have no numbers that show scope, responsibility, and achievements. So I say, I don't want your resume to have all these great, I think I'm the smartest, fastest, coolest. I want it to look like the back of a baseball card. Just show me your numbers. I was a sales rep. I did this. My quota was this. My revenue was this. A couple of big sales were these. And if they don't have them in there, then you can ask those kinds of things up front. So you're a sales rep, great. What were you selling? How much did it cost? How long was the sales cycle? What was your quota? What was your revenue? How were you stack ranked against how many people were in your region? How were you stack ranked against them? Those have nothing to do with compensation, but everything to do with how well did you do in your last job or any previous jobs. Best resume I ever got it started out with an Excel spreadsheet on top. 10 years, revenue starting at like 300 grand, ended up at 3 million quota. Revenue was above quota each year except one. Stack ranking 1 out of 12, 1 out of 6, 2 out of 6 in my region, and then key sales, $1.2 million to, and it might have said Pfizer, it might have said large pharma in New Jersey, and they would have 2 or 3 of those. So you look at this person's resume and you go, yeah, I'm done.
Right.
This guy has been selling above quota 9 out of 10 years, top ranked. And these are the kinds of sales he's been making. So I can see that, yeah, that fits with the kind of clients I'm looking for, the geographical area I'm looking for, and the price tag that I'm looking for. So if they don't have, which most of them won't have that, those are the kind of things that you need to ask in the interview process relative to the metrics in your job description and what you're going to expect them to do, hitting the ground running, or whatever training they're going to go through to help them make the transition from one job to the other.
So Scott, you hit a point a few minutes ago when we were talking, the ease with people being able to click to apply for jobs on these various things like Indeed and some of the other ones, right? They go in, those are also an obstacle though, in many ways. One of the first obstacles is you hear from the more experienced, more talented, higher level job seekers, and this is especially true in the IT industry where I am. Okay, I clicked to apply. I've already uploaded my resume. I've uploaded all this information about everything I've done for the past 10 years. Click to apply, and then the next thing you see is a screen with a pop-up that says, tell us your employment history for the past 10 years. We already have that, right? And I have a paper I can send over to you. So that turns away some of the more talented people who aren't going to go through those channels. Right. So as an employer, if you're relying on systems like Indeed or systems similar to that are sort of the AI or the automated HR sitting between the hiring manager and the candidate,
yeah,
it's been proven you're losing a lot of people that way. Or even if you have an internal HR person or department who's doing that in the large organizations, a lot of their filtering is filtering out quality candidates. And being in that position in the enterprise space for years, we would get resumes that had nothing to do with what we asked for, and we were writing the job descriptions. We didn't fill the descriptions with a lot of fluff and just list every product under the sun that someone possibly could have seen. We were very specific about requirements. We would send it over to the HR department. They would run it through their software against all of the resumes they received and send us over. And we would look at them and go, this has nothing to do with what we asked for. And it led us to 6-month hiring timeframes for certain positions. So, a lot of these automated technology systems, and this is coming from a technologist, 30 years in the industry, that technology is getting in the way of hiring good people. It's either turning them away at the door, or it's filtering them out of office. It's a problem for a lot of organizations. And I think if the smaller organizations are looking to be quicker about hiring, if they're going to depend on services like this, they need to recognize that they may not be finding the right people. The better method is LinkedIn referrals, and finding people that way usually works better than those boards.
Yeah, most of those, I had a situation like that. There's some really crusty old HR systems out there that do require, how many jobs have you had? And it tries to parse your resume into it, but it never works. So you end up having to rewrite your resume on the job board. But a lot of that tends to be malleable for the company. So you could say, don't do that. Just forward the resumes to us and we'll sort them out. But you do, I had, even on LinkedIn, well, I'm not saying post on LinkedIn, well, you can, but I would get, when I was, a lot of times, even if I was in a great job, I'd leave that open to recruiters available. So LinkedIn would send you updates. And I got one time that said, congratulations, you'd be in the top half of the 1,321 people who've applied to this job. It was for a director level role in New York. That was, I don't know how they picked me, but it's like, great, there's only 657 people, or I'm ahead of 657 people. And I would tell people, even if you find a great job on LinkedIn or wherever you see it, network in, go to LinkedIn, take a look at the employees there. Do you know anybody? If you don't, do you know anybody that knows somebody there? Is there a former employee? Network in rather than apply online.
100%.
I have a question about the job postings on the chamber website, actually. Danielle, I have some clients as their webmaster who are looking to hire and struggling to find candidates. And I know in the back end, you mentioned that we could post job openings. Would I be allowed to post openings for my clients that are also featured on their websites? So that'd be great.
Yeah. And honestly, that's one of my questions to Growth Zone right now is how I can get that customer facing, because people are public is allowed to add community calendar events, but I want them to also be able to add job postings as well, because I'm looking for it to be, you know, an actual good job posting board. So it's one of my questions, but in the meantime, please feel free in the back office to add whatever you want.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions for Scott? Scott, that was super informative. We are going to be hiring a director of communications after the summer at the chamber. So I'm going to be circling back with you if you don't mind, to kind of get some, you know, more tips on what's the best way to go about that. But in the meantime, I think that I'm going to start working on a roadmap, and I think that that's a great place to start. Like you said, a 30, 60, 90, you know, day expectation that's great advice for an employer. And next month we have strategies for success presented by the technology committee. And John LeMay, do you have any more information on that you can give me, or not yet?
We met yesterday. I followed up with an email this morning, since the information I was supposed to receive yesterday afternoon, I have not received yet. So, and that was a few hours ago I sent that, and I just checked my email. I still don't have a response. So still looking for that, but they did commit to getting it to me yesterday afternoon or tomorrow morning at the latest.
Okay.
Or I'm sorry, yesterday afternoon or this morning at the latest, and I'm still waiting.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
Can you just give a
asking every day.
high level topic so we know?
I can. So this came out of the technology committee. You know, Lisa, you were in the meeting where we first discussed this topic. This is around credit card fraud. So working with M&T Bank, Lisa, Stacey Romano over there suggested they would like to do a presentation on that. So I've been working with them since April to kind of put something together, and we found some ideas back and forth. The idea is to focus on a vendor who provides credit card processing verification services. So on top of the normal things that you do, taking the information for the credit card or processing it automatically on a website, before that approval is taken, and the presenter will do a better job with this, that information is sent over to this service. It's run through an AI and machine learning based engine software application that takes a look at all the details around that information. Where has that card been used before? What time of day has that card been used? What types of purchases has that card made in the past? And makes a determination, how likely is this to be fraudulent? If it passes those checks, it's automatically approved. If it doesn't pass those checks, it's passed on to an individual, a human person, to review it further and make a final determination. Now, how fast all that happens, what the real details are behind that, that's what we're hoping to see in the presentation. A little bit of the technical detail, but really the focus is going to be on, as a small business, as a merchant, how are we making sure that if you take a credit card, it's valid and you're going to get your fees for your services or your cash for the product you're selling, as opposed to having some type of a fraud claim that you have to take up with your merchant provider. So it's about making sure those transactions are valid.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. And again, thank you, Scott, for your time today. We appreciate it. And we will be posting this on our YouTube account and sending it out to everybody who registered and couldn't make it. So thank you again, and we'll see you next time.
I'll send you an updated
Slide.
presentation too. I've just made some minor edits to it.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that. And hopefully we'll see you at Member Connect tomorrow morning. Thank you.